Welcome to the home of Grand Canyon hiking. This is the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show presented by Bright Angel Outfitters for canyon and rim-to-rim specific gear and apparel and tons of free resources to help you plan your adventure. Visit us at brightangeloutfitters.com. We exist to help you hike your best hike. Now, let's talk some canyon. Oh, what an opportunity. Oh, what an adventure. And oh, what a finish. My name is Brian Special, and this is the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show presented by Bright Angel Outfitters. Most Januaries, the north rim of the Grand Canyon is blanketed in snow and ice. And because there's no access by vehicle between December and May, regular rim-to-rims are not possible. If you want to set foot on the north side, you'll have to go back to the south rim the moment you do. So rim-to-rim-to-rim is the only real option. And because of the usual conditions, you've typically got to be pretty hardcore to pull it off, as the North Kaibab Trail is unmaintained that time of year, usually covered in deep snow and susceptible to rock slides and washouts. For those reasons, someone like me wouldn't even think about an R3 in the winter months. But this year is different. It's been one of the driest stretches on record for most of Arizona. In fact, 3 hours south in Phoenix, we had not seen measurable rain since August 22nd, and this was on January 11th. So an opportunity this was, to do a rim-to-rim-to-rim unimpeded by weather or winter conditions right smack in the middle of January. So I decided to reach out to a couple of canyon vets to see if they'd be interested. The first, Coach Arnie Fonseca Jr., fresh off his quadruple crossing a couple of months before, quickly accepted. The second, Buffy Park, who you've heard on the show before, but who neither Arnie nor I had ever hiked with, was next.
You just hit me up on instant messaging saying, hey, this weather, I think Arnie and I are going to pull off an R3. Are you interested? And I think I immediately texted back, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about it. It was just absolutely. I thought about it later and I was like, why did you just say that? Like, cause it's an R3 and you're like, do you really want to do it? But no, those are the opportunities that, that's why I do what I do every day. So that I joke that I live in fear that someone's going to say, hey, do you want to do this, random thing? And I don't ever want to be like, well, yeah, but I got to get ready for it, or I got to train for it, or I got to, be ready. So yeah, you said you want to do it? I said, absolutely.
So the plan was hatched. We'd all drive up separately from Phoenix on a Friday, spend the night in Tucson, just outside the park, and meet near the South Kaibab Trailhead at 3:15 Saturday morning. The goal? 20 hours to cover the 42-plus miles and 22,000 feet of elevation change. And just like that, Buffy, Arnie, and me were in the pre-dawn darkness and cold in the South Kaibab parking lot. What follows is a recount of a winter adventure none of us will ever forget, and all the drama that popped up along the way. Even if a double crossing isn't in your plans and you're training for rim-to-rim or rim-to-river or any canyon hike for that matter, there are still valuable lessons to learn here. This is the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show, presented by Bright Angel Outfitters. It's January in the canyon. We're taking advantage of the dry winter that we've had so far. There should be 2 feet of snow on the north rim this time of the year typically. I don't even know if there's much more than a dusting over there right now. So Buffy and Arnie and I are taking advantage of this to do a rim-to-rim-to-rim, a winter palooza. We met out on the road at 64 and have walked our way to the trailhead. Just to let you all know, even for experienced canyon hikers, it can be an absolute cluster getting yourself all ready to go, because we had to stand there waiting for Buffy for 10, 15 minutes. And he's like, where's my light? Where's this? Where's that? Where's my... Brian, call my phone, right?
Yeah, call my phone. Lost his hand lamp. Yeah, it was kind of a cluster, yeah.
And then we started walking here in the pitch blackness through the forest, and Buffy's like, wait a second, now I have to turn around.
Yeah, I was checking in on my phone, and then my glove was missing, so we had to go back for my glove.
Yeah, so no, we've had a nice little warm-up here at, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Arn, how are you feeling this morning? You're 2 months removed from your famous rim-to-rim-to-rim-to-rim-to-rim, your quadruple crossing. First time back up here at the canyon. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm I'm pretty excited seeing the sparklies in your eye, though.
That's the darkness in the moonlight hitting my salt and pepper whiskers.
Actually, I'm looking forward to it. I want to see what you guys can do. I'm looking forward to learning. How's that?
Fair enough, because you're always learning in the canyon. This is for Buffy and me. This is the second time we've done a 1 day rim to rim to rim. So I don't know if we're 100% sure what to expect.
And this is my 20th.
20. Shove it right in our face, Arn.
And he's ready to learn. That's what I think is funny. Is like I feel like I'm showing up like a rookie. What do we got here? Actually, I am showing up like a rookie. I unboxed my shoes this morning.
Oh, Arnie, what do you think of that? You were rolling your eyes on that one.
Oh well, she's not. She's actually either a rookie or very, very, very experienced because she knows exactly what those shoes are going to do coming out of the box. How's that?
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Let's go with that. All right, well, we might as well get at it because it's cold. I think it was like 19 degrees I saw in my car. Hey, this is beautiful because this is better than June, July,
Actually,
August,
this is better
September.
than when I finished.
I don't even mind you.
This is better than when I finished in November because I was freezing my you-know-what off in November waiting for my ride. So how's that?
Yeah, it's not that bad right now. It's really not. So we're going to try to do this in, I don't know, I think it'll take us around 20 hours. I don't feel like I'm conditioned for this at all, but I feel like experience goes a long way. And don't you feel the same way, Buff, that experience will help carry us no matter what, since we know what to expect?
I think that you can make up for a lot of different things. I think that experience can make up for things. I think physical ability can make up for things. I think equipment can make up for things. So if you're lacking one of those, you make up for it with the other.
Well, you were almost lacking your gloves. We got that situation figured out. So let's get after this.
I have another pair of gloves in my pack. Had I lost this glove, I have a lighter pair of gloves in my pack.
Well, then what do we turn around for?
Because these ones are the warm ones.
And it was a good warm up. All right, let's hit it. Let's hit it, guys. We'll catch up with everybody from the trail. South Kaibab, North Kaibab, and back.
Okay, so the one thing that we left out there when we were getting close to the trailhead is Buffy and I were both in our hotel rooms in Tucson the night before. Arnie, throughout our text thread, we said we're going to meet at 3:15, but for like the last 8 hours of that day, he disappeared. He vanished. We didn't know if he was even going to be there in the morning. And it turns out, Buffy, that we found out when we did meet up with him at 3:15 off Highway 64, that he had just driven up that night, like overnight, without really sleeping.
Right, because at some point, I think that we both assumed I thought he was staying at your hotel, and I think you thought he was staying. I thought we were going to have to go knock on his door and find him. I had no idea that he was driving up. So that was, I mean, I don't know, if you start picking apart things that maybe could have impacted, the hike in general. I didn't sleep a lot that night before, but I sure don't want to drive up. And I mean, I don't want to drive up and then start an R3, but.
And even if you're doing rim to rim, people should know this. It is hard to sleep the night before. You're so jacked up and excited. You got all your stuff packed up and everything laid out. And it's like getting ready for Christmas morning, But I would say don't worry about it, because as long as you're in your room and you're resting and your mind is going to the right places, there's so much adrenaline the next day that's going to help carry you through, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would be surprised if I slept more than 3 hours the night before.
Yeah.
But, at least it had a semblance of going to bed and getting up and getting ready to do this awesome thing.
Yeah. So we did finally get to the trailhead and start down the chimney, down South Kaibab at 3:57 a.m. One thing that I did on the way down South Kaibab that was very, very conscious, because I've had so many adventures, not ruined, but affected in a negative way by going down too fast, because you're excited and it's easy going downhill, relatively speaking, cardio wise, but you can wreck your knees and you can wreck your quads. And you can just wreck your legs on the way down. And I've had it happen to me many times where I get to Phantom Ranch and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't feel good. And that's going to affect the rest of your hike. And on a rim to rim to rim, you're talking over 42 miles and 22,000 feet of elevation change. You better not ruin your hike on the first 6.5 mile descent to the river. And so I was very conscious about using my poles and I stretched them out, made them even longer than I normally would for a downhill. And I was really bracing myself on the way down in an attempt to save my knees for later in the day. And I really, really, really feel like that worked. What's your philosophy with poles?
Well, I use poles. I use poles going down. I use them everything on except for the flats. I think that I've done it so many times that I pace really well. I know what I'm doing and what I need to do. And so I'm with you that I feel like I slowed, I didn't do like a rim to river rim pace. I didn't really, it was like we got to get after it, right? Because you don't want to be in there for like 28 hours, but definitely, pulling back, like not trying to bounce down the hill.
Yeah. And it's hard to resist that sometimes because you're like, I'm going to make great time on this, but that's really not the place to do it. So proceed downhill with caution. Coach Arnie always says the downfall of a hike can be in the downhill in the canyon, and it's just so different because you're hiking downhill for so long first, as opposed to most hiking adventures you go on where you hike up to the top of the mountain and then you come back down. It's completely reversed in the canyon.
I've plenty of the time seen, I've done it myself, like fall or, roll an ankle or on the downs. So, and it was dark. So yeah, you got to take your time and be safe about it.
Yeah, you got to pay attention to what you're doing. So hiking in the dark can be not the most fun thing in the world, especially when you know that the views out there are the greatest views in the world and you're just seeing a black abyss. And that's what we had all the way down to the bottom. And we got ourselves down to Boat Beach, refilled on water, had some snacks, and then started working our way past Phantom Ranch and through the box as the sun started to come up.
About 3 hours and 45 minutes into this, we are about halfway through the box, so maybe between 9 and 10 miles in. Beautiful day. Can't believe it's January. Temps are probably in the 40s right down here in the bottom, and not expecting to see really even any snow when we get up to the North Rim, but we shall see, because you can't really put eyes on the North Rim unless you see it for yourself this time of year, because everything's closed up there, which is why we're here doing Winter Palooza 2025, taking advantage of the dry winter and doing a rim to rim to rim. Arnie and Buffy, they're fun to hike with, by the way. Canyon veterans, beasts. I mean, it's kind of funny. Arnie doing his, this has got to be just child's play to him, doing just a rim to rim to rim after doing his quadruple crossing just in November. So it's fun. We're having a great time so far. Do I expect that to change? Yes, I do.
Yeah, that's experience speaking right there, right? Do I expect it to change? You darn right I do, because at some point on a rim to rim to rim, and even on a rim to rim or a rim to river, at some point you are probably going to struggle. You just have to expect it, right?
Absolutely. And the other experience talking was when you talk about we filled up at Boat Beach. I remember when we were filling up at Boat Beach, we did that because online it said that Phantom was off.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, well, when we get to Phantom, I'm checking it, because there's been plenty of times that I've seen something online that says it's off, and then you check it. And I'd way rather fill up at Phantom. It's way easier than that Boat Beach thing. So we did. We checked Phantom and it was on. So we hit that on the way back.
It was nice seeing the sun start to come up in the box, wasn't it?
It was. I think we made some jokes about the heat of the box and getting through the box before it got too hot. It was not hot.
Yeah.
It was not hot at all.
We didn't have to worry about that. We're talking, I think it was 19 degrees when we started at the top. Again, this is January, so even though there's no moisture, there's no snow really, it's cold. And we had to keep on moving, and we did a good job of that. And when we got into the box, the sun started to come up, and then I handed the camera to Coach Arnie, and he told us about the one goal that you should have for this first of two crossings.
Now the goal is to get to the North Rim and feel good. That's the lesson that I like to teach, that I had to learn sometimes the hard way. So, because you got to come back, and you got to get back to Phantom Ranch and feel good. Because you don't want to get to Phantom Ranch and feel like, oh my God. Especially, we got to go up South Kaibab, but it's cool, and everybody should be doing good, and then we'll finish this thing off. But It's kind of interesting when you ask people what they're thinking about. Sometimes I think I'm like a Rain Man or something. Kind of weird. I'm always thinking numbers in my head. But one of the things I like to think about actually is what I'm going to feel like when I finish. It's kind of an interesting dichotomy, I guess. Instead of worrying about where I am in the moment, a lot of times I think about how I'm going to feel when I'm done. And then I kind of work my way back from that. It kind of gives me a different perspective because I'm constantly looking at numbers, which some people don't agree with, but that's okay. Like counting bridges and all this crazy stuff. But I just know I have numbers in my head where I want to be in the canyon. Like right now, we're right at a little over 4 hours. So we're doing really well. So now it's just a matter of, maintaining the pace, feeling good, don't make any mistakes. And that way that's how you have a what I call clean R3 without drama. It's very important because we're in a big place here and a lot of weird stuff can happen. So you just try to stay within yourself and just try not to make too many mistakes because no one's going to be perfect. Stuff happens. But just stay within yourself. Trust your training. Don't eat anything weird. And just keep moving. You can't lose if you keep moving, guys. I promise you.
Okay, so there was a lot of foreshadowing actually in what Coach Arnie just said about drama and making mistakes and having to keep moving. Are you in our Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show Facebook group yet? Well, join today and learn all the tips and tricks and hear about others' experiences on Rim to Rim and beyond. It's totally free. You'll have daily access to me, Coach Arnie, and just about every guest we've ever had on the show. All there to help you have your best possible Grand Canyon experience. Join the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show Facebook group and be inspired and informed and get yourself Grand Canyon ready. You said that early on, especially because it was cold. You said you're good as long as you keep moving, and if you stop, you freeze, right?
Well, we were talking ahead of time. We were talking about like, hey guys, what's your game plan for layers? And we were all team shorts, which I love. I'm always going to be team shorts.
Yeah.
Snow, I don't care. But I keep my core warm. And I had dropped my puffer coat. I mean, man, like I think by Cedar Ridge, I had already dropped that. And I mean, there's social hikes where I'll bring a lot of extra clothes or more clothes than I would normally because I know what this, we're going to be moving slower. We're going to be stopping a lot more. And so when we talked, I mean, honestly, I was looking at this like, Coach just did an R5.
Yeah.
You hike a ton. And I mean, I certainly do a lot, but I haven't done an R3 in a long time. And I guess I didn't know how many times you'd done it. So I was looking at the thing like, as far as me being like, make sure that I'm ready to take this on with you guys. Like, I don't want to be the weak link. And honestly, like that week before, like that was in my head, like, even said to my daughter at some point, she's like, what are you worried about? You have the sticker on your car. And I was like, all right, that's fair. That's fair. But I was just like, like it's a lot and it's a big one. And no matter if you've done it before or not, it's still a big one. So we all went in shorts, but if you keep moving, you're good. And I thought we would keep moving and we'd be fine. I've got some backup stuff. We all joked about carrying our, the emergency blankets and stuff that we're not sure is going to do a ton, but I'm sure an emergency is going to do more than nothing. But yeah, no, I did. I went back and looked at my text because that's exactly what I said is as long as we keep moving, I'm good.
Yeah. And that's what we planned on. And when you're wearing shorts into the canyon in January and it's going to be 19 degrees to start, and maybe it gets into the 40s at the most midway through the day, and then you're going to be in the 20s again when you finish. You're banking on moving because I'm like you. People look at me like I'm nuts when I'm wearing shorts in the wintertime. I'm like, it just doesn't affect me. It's just not a big deal because you just keep on moving and my legs don't get cold, but my core gets very cold and my arms get very cold. My upper body gets cold, so I'm layered up there. But you can get yourself into some trouble if you don't keep moving. But that was the plan. That's not necessarily how the plan would end up shaking out at the end. But at this point, we made our way through the box, and now we're in that long exposed stretch after the box called the frying pan, and Buffy took the camera.
We are somewhere out of the box, getting into the nonsense of nothingness. And next landmark I'm looking forward to, not really, is Asinine Hill. I haven't asked these guys yet if we're headed to Ribbon. I'm scared of the answer. I think they're gonna say no. The creek is not running very hard. It would be a quick skip, hop, and a jump to get over there. But I'm sure come tonight when we hit South Kaibab, I will be perfectly happy if their answer was no when we get to Ribbon.
Okay, this was an internal struggle that you obviously had going on that I didn't know about. I couldn't hear you when you were talking there on camera when you were going through the frying pan. I didn't know that you were so worried about, wanting to go to Ribbon Falls. But Ribbon's important to you, isn't it?
I love Ribbon. I find it, I think it's amazing. It's hard to get to. I know I've expressed that I'm not super thrilled if they build another bridge because right now it takes some effort to get there. I think it's just such a tranquil, gorgeous, off the beaten path. Not everybody gets there. I've never been over there with more than, I don't know, 3 or 4 people around. So it's usually pretty desolate and it's absolutely gorgeous, the view. So yeah, so I was like, we're here. I always like to hit it on the, from on the south to north side, skip Asinine Hill. And I guess part of me is it separates the difference between like, and I don't think there's, again, hike your own hike, but for me, it's a physical thing. Like I hike to be physical and to exercise and I enjoy that. And I love pushing myself physically and mentally, but like I'm also there to enjoy the scenery. Like I don't think there's anything more beautiful than the canyon. So I want to take that break. And I'm telling you, like when it's all said and done, that little jaunt to Ribbon isn't what makes or breaks your trip. Like if you
I think
struggle,
it can make your trip. I think you can make it. It can make it.
Okay, it can make it. But I mean, like, physically, like, if you're struggling on the last 3 miles up Bright Angel like everybody else, it's not because you took the detour to Ribbon. It's because it's a struggle up Bright Angel. You know what I mean? Like, that little bit isn't what's going to take it all out of you and make your hike that much harder. And I think it's refreshing. I love it. I think it's why I hike,
You're going to cost yourself probably a half hour at the very least, up to, it depends on how long you want to stay and explore around the falls, but it's a magical place. But I just love how this played out. So Buffy is in the lead, and I'm right behind Buffy, and Arnie's behind us, and we get to the first Ribbon Falls turnoff on the south side of Asinine Hill, and Buffy kind of turns to me, and what happened from there?
Oh, I turned to you and I'm like, so are we gonna even have a conversation about this? And you're like, a conversation about what? And I just
hadn't even crossed my mind.
Yeah, I gestured over to Ribbon and I'm like, Ribbon? And you're like, you kind of shook me off at first. I'll say that. You
I was like, are you kidding me? No way. I haven't
Yeah.
even thought about this. We got time to make up here.
And then you thought about it for a second and you're like, well, let's see what Coach says. And then
I could tell it was important to you.
We'll see how this goes.
Arnie's another story. And so I said to you, I go, let's see what Coach says. Ask him if he's even been to Ribbon Falls before, because Coach is all business and he's about the physical part of this more than anything. I go, ask him if he wants to go and if he's even been there. And so what happened then?
So we stood there and waited a second and then I was like, Coach, you want to go Ribbon? No, no. It's just
immediately shook his head.
And then you were totally right, because then I don't remember, you asked him, have you ever been there? And he's like, no, like it's not even part of this hike. He just, why would I do that? It just seemed absurd. And so I think that's what I was like, all right, I guess we're not going. And then either you or I said, well, I mean, like, I think you said like, well, we could go and catch up with him at Manzanita. I was like, let's go. Let's go. Absolutely, that's all I needed. Like, just open the door this much, and I'm headed out. Let's
I
go.
could tell it that place fills up your soul. And honestly, I had not been there since my first rim to rim in 1986. Can you believe that? I had not been back to Ribbon
Yeah,
Falls
that's
because I got more of the
nuts.
Arnie mentality about just, keep pushing on and try to beat your own best time and all that stuff. But I could tell how much it meant to you, and I was like, well, this will be awesome. And she knows the way, and she knows how to
Right.
traverse this creek,
Sort of.
which
Yeah.
is an interesting experience.
Yeah. I mean, there's no I don't I guarantee I've never taken the exact same way twice, and been there countless times. But there's some general stuff, and there's enough social trails and all. I think one of the things is if you hit it from the south, you can see it. So you know which direction you're going. Like you can actually see the falls and you're headed that way. I think hitting it coming from the north is definitely a lot trickier. Um, because even once you cross the creek, you don't really have any idea where you're trying to go. So yeah,
And
so we walked down there.
crossing the creek is a thing. Let me just tell you, crossing the creek is a thing because you've got to kind of hopscotch your way across on the boulders, and that water's flowing pretty quick, and it's shin deep probably to knee deep. And I'm just going to tell you right now, in January, the idea of slipping into the water and getting your feet wet, that was not a pleasant thought. So I was like, yeah, Buffy, why don't you just go first and go ahead and show the way? And you did.
I did. I've actually, there's been a couple times where I haven't gone because of, springtime. I mean, even a couple years ago, you couldn't have crossed it if you wanted to. You couldn't even cross Wall Creek a couple years ago. Um, but there's definitely, like in the fall, it's easier because you don't have so much snow melt. But we got there and the creek wasn't bad at all. So yeah, it's just a little hop, skip, and a jump to get over there. I've never taken my shoes off, and I've never, knock on wood, I've never gotten my feet wet.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I'm a little rock hopper.
Yeah, no, you're good. You turn around, you're like, okay, come on, dude, let's go. You can do this. That one right there. Anyway, so we finally get over to the falls, and I think everyone who questions whether they should do that or not should take something from my experience, because you get there and you look at this just gorgeous sight. It's like, why don't I do this every time? Because it's spectacular, and it ends up being the highlight of a rim to rim or a rim to rim to rim. Because it's incredibly beautiful. It's incredibly peaceful. Obviously, there was no one around. We saw hardly anybody the entire day. Definitely no one at Ribbon Falls. We got to go up behind the falls and just kind of enjoy it for a few minutes. It's such a nice respite from the grind of a rim to rim.
And it's so different, when you talk about like the each of the trails on each different rim are different, but Ribbon stands out like this ridiculous, like why is it even here? It's lush, it's green, it's
Yeah.
wet, it's the mist, it cool. I mean, even dead of summer, it's like, super refreshing, and it's just so bonkers that it's there when you've got all this other stuff going on. Like, it's so out of the ordinary there. I think that's
Yeah,
why
in the
it
this
stands out.
arid desert environment, and
Hmm.
even like you said, in the summertime. I mean, what a great place to go and just cool off and get your feet wet. Maybe wait for the shade to take over for the rest of your hike. Yeah, 10 out of 10, without a doubt, going to Ribbon. So I am so glad that you wanted to go and made that clear, and that we did it. And Coach missed out. Dang it. Maybe one of these days we'll get him out there. I think it'll happen. So we probably lost, I would guess. We told Coach we would meet him at Manzanita. I think we probably lost 30 to 45 minutes. I think he said he'd been waiting for us for at least a half hour by the time we stumbled into Manzanita. And at Manzi, that's the last chance that you have to kind of regroup and get your act together before the climb up the North Rim truly begins.
We are at Manzanita. We are 5.4 miles and about 3,600 vertical feet below the North Rim. It is cold, 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 which is the entire point of this adventure. I do see some snow up there on the North Rim. I don't know if we're going to need spikes or anything like that or not, but I don't think there's going to be enough snow that it's going to hinder us too bad no matter what. So now the climb begins. When you get to Manzanita on the North Rim and you step onto the trail from Manzanita, that is when the climb truly, truly begins on North Kaibab. It's pretty much straight uphill the whole way. And conversely, when you come down North Kaibab and you get to Manzanita, that's really the end of the steep descent. Then it kind of levels off from there. You lose about 2,000 feet between here and Phantom Ranch. We gained about 2,000 feet between here and Phantom Ranch, but it feels relatively level the entire way. But the climb truly begins at Manzanita, so we need to go to work. And when we get to the top, we're going to turn right around and come back again. That's what rim to rim to rim is all about. So off we go.
So one thing I found out in the days after our hike, when we got to Manzanita, Coach, it was so cold that he had been going between the picnic tables out there and going up into the bathrooms to warm up just time and time again as he's trying to keep himself moving and trying to keep himself warm. Because it was, at this point, we hadn't even had direct sunlight yet. It had been, darkness and then shade, and it was cold at Manzi. And as you know, when you get to Manzanita, buckle up, because that's where the hike truly begins.
Absolutely. It is. It's just, getting to Manzanita, and then you're like, yeah, this hike is just about to start.
And two things that I remember as we left Manzanita. Number one, you put your earbuds in for the first time. That's a sign. That's very telling. And then as we started up, after we put our gloves and our hats and everything back on because it was really cold, then all of a sudden the sun was hitting us. So you put your earbuds in and the sun hit us. What do you remember about both those things?
That's exactly. I mean, like I put my earbuds in. I listen to books when I hike. I knew we were gonna, we were all gonna grind it out. And I think that's one of those things where, so if you go back to when you asked me to do this hike, like I don't personally know you. Like we know of each other. We've spoke, we've whatever, but like we've never hiked together.
Right.
Same thing with Arnie. Like, so this is, basically hiking with strangers, that, can do the hike, which is, better than hiking with strangers. But I don't know your personalities. I don't know, this, that, or, like, are we chit chatting or whatever? But it seemed like we were all going to kind of grind this thing out. And, we were trying to keep a decent pace. And so, yeah, so I popped my book in because that's, I figure we're not going to do a lot of chit chatting while we head up. But man, when that sun hit, it felt so good. And it was just above Manzanita that we got full sun. And then it was just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it was. And trust me, there was no offense taken or anything when those earbuds went in. I think I put mine in at the same time because, we've done this enough. We've climbed the North Rim enough that when you step off at Manzanita, the chit-chatting, which we'd been doing this entire hike, and it was great. We were all getting to know each other and sharing stories and talking about our lives, and it was awesome. But once you start up from Manzanita, things are about to get really, really, really serious. So if you're going to put earbuds in and you got music that's going to get you through, if you got a book that's going to get you through, podcasts, I've done all of the above. Do what you have to do to get through because the climb gets extremely difficult after Manzanita. It's pretty much straight up. About, I think, 3,600 feet of elevation over the last 5.4 miles. So it's the toughest part of North Kaibab, and it's where North Kaibab gets its reputation. So we made our way up Red Wall Bridge. We made it through the Eye of the Needle, which is the iconic section along the cliffs there. You get to Red Wall Bridge, and then you've got that long, difficult climb for a mile from Red Wall Bridge to Supai Tunnel, which is probably the most difficult part of North Kaibab, though I guess you could argue it's tough from Supai Tunnel all the way to the top as well. But the difficult climb up to Supai Tunnel, 1.7 miles from the top, was next.
We're 1.7 miles from the top. And it's important to remember that everything is relative at this point. We all feel pretty good, relatively speaking. Right?
Absolutely.
1.7 from the top. The funny thing is, I always say that at some point on a rim to rim, you reach the point where you are ready to be done and ready to be out of the canyon. And we are 1.7 miles from finishing our rim to rim. The problem for us is that this is a rim to rim to rim. So even though we might feel like we might want to be done, we don't have a choice. We got to do a touch and go at the top of North Kaibab and head right back to the other side where we came from again. So it's a cruel, cruel world. Not that anybody made us do this.
Okay, so 1.7 miles from the top, Buff, how are we feeling?
I I mean, I was feeling good. It's one of those things where I was trying to hold back my excitement because you're 1.7 miles from the top, but you're 1.7 miles from the turnaround. And that's what really, I was trying to really mentally prepare myself for that turn. I mean, obviously we had no choice. There's nothing going on up there. But to not, I really tried to hold back myself from feeling like, okay, like here's the top and you're done. Like it just,
Yeah.
that wasn't trying to be a point of anything other than we get there and then we turn around and we go back.
Yeah, and that's halfway done mileage-wise, but it's
Right.
not halfway done at all because it's definitely more than twice as hard going back after you've already got all those miles on your legs. But we had 1.7 to go at that point. The last major landmark that you're looking for is the sign for Coconino Overlook, which is a mile up from Supai Tunnel and 7/10 of a mile from the North Kaibab trailhead. And I'm telling you, that mile between Supai Tunnel and Coconino Overlook, I am convinced is 5 miles. You can't convince me otherwise, because there have been times when I have been hiking up there looking for that sign, because it's kind of the last. It's like you're there when you get to that sign. There have been times when I have convinced myself that I have passed it, only have it pop up 3 switchbacks later, and you get all upset again. But another thing to that point, when I'm in those kind of mental dire straits, it's in the summertime. It's when it's hot. It's when the heat is taking its toll on you, which it does when it's summer, late spring, early fall even. This time, it just was such a different feeling. If there is one takeaway from this entire hike, it's that hiking in the colder weather is perfection. It's the best. Don't you think?
No, we're going to disagree on this one too.
Okay. Let's hear it.
I'm an Arizona girl. I work out in the sun. I live in the sun. I ride my bike all year round. I hike all year round. I mean, I'm not going to say I love, 120, but I definitely am more uncomfortable when I'm cold than when I'm hot. Definitely.
Well, you can't be right about everything. It's okay. We finally found something we disagree on. To me, it's all the difference. I despise hiking in the heat. It's where I have my biggest problems. But maybe I'm just not that good at it. And maybe we're all built differently. Some people handle the heat really, really well. Some people handle the cold really, really well, and some people don't. So we found a place where we don't necessarily agree, but that's okay.
I mean, I would still
but you
take
don't
like
advocate hiking in the summertime.
no, and I'm saying I would take like an 85 day over, anything higher than that,
Yeah.
but I would definitely take an 80s over a 40s if I had a choice. I mean, and I do have a choice, but I hike it all. So I love it all, but yeah, no, I'd rather be warm.
We are very fortunate that we can get up to the canyon 3.5 hours away whenever we want. That's the beauty of living in the Phoenix area. So we trudge our way up after we get to the Coconino Overlook. It did finally appear. And then we start making our way up almost to the North Kaibab trailhead. And this is where we started to see, a little bit of snow in places, but it never affected us. We did not need micro spikes. In fact, I couldn't believe this, but I had to convince you and Arnie to pack the micro spikes because I'm like, God, you never know. I mean, we don't know we did not know what we were going to run into on the North Rim. We assumed it was probably going to be dry, but what if? Hey, you want to support the show? You'll find Grand Canyon and Rim to Rim themed apparel and more at brightangeloutfitters.com. While you're there, be sure to check out the Rim to Rim pack, the day pack with front pockets that we designed with the canyon hiker in mind. It's all at brightangeloutfitters.com. We exist to help you hike your best hike. I couldn't believe I had to convince you guys to take the spikes. Ultimately, you were the one saying I told you so, but that's another story.
But Brian, here's the thing: is you didn't actually convince me to take the spikes.
You didn't take them?
No, I didn't take them.
You did. After all that, you didn't bring them.
I didn't. I had them in the car, and then I was like, dude, I looked at the weather, and I was and then I pulled up. I pulled up the last hike report I could find online. And it was only like 4 days prior, and they said it was clear, and I said, it's going to be clear. Like when you're weighing this out, and no, they don't weigh a lot, but they weigh like an apple, and I'm like, do I want the apple or do I want the micro spikes? But I am an advocate for, again, I told you, like, do as I say, not as I do.
Well,
I would always tell somebody that in that situation they should have their spikes with them, especially if you're not doing it in a day, because you just never know what's going to happen on your way out. There's been times that I've needed them. There's been times I've carried them for no reason. This just didn't happen to end up being one of them.
you took a chance, and you were the one telling me I told you so. So it worked out. But ultimately, we did make it to the so-called halfway point at the North Kaibab Trailhead.
Well, we made it. 9 hours and 41 minutes it took us. Probably 30 to 45 we lost with the Ribbon Falls detour, but that's okay. 9 hours and 41 minutes. And the hardest part about finishing this rim-to-rim buff is what?
We're going to turn back and do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the turning back, doing it again.
That's a hard thing to kind of comprehend, honestly. When right now you'd usually be finishing a rim-to-rim, be worn out and looking for a ride back to the lodge, get a nice hot shower. But no, that's not an option. There is literally no other option than to turn around and go back to where we came from. So
the level of excitement of like, I did it, is a little bit lower than usual.
It is, because we're at 50%.
Yeah, we're halfway done. Halfway done.
Yeah,
And
usually
you got to keep your mind wrapped around that. Like,
you do.
You can't come up here like, yay.
It's a little bit easier because you're preparing yourself mentally for it the whole way up the North Rim. That, all right, when I finish, I'm only 50% done. But it is hard to comprehend that we've got 14 miles to go just to get back to Phantom Ranch right now.
Downhill.
And then
downhill miles.
Yeah, downhill. But then I cannot stop thinking about South Kaibab and how when we come out on the other side of the Black Bridge, it is just going to hit you instantly and it's not going to stop. And I can't stop thinking of those red and white switchbacks. I just can't stop thinking of the red and whites because, man, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a long night. We're going to get back to Phantom. It's going to be getting dark. So we're going to head out in the dark, and it's going to be put your head down and go to work. That's what it was here, honestly. It was kind of funny because when we got to Manzanita, Buffy put her headphones in, her AirPods, because I think that's a sign of what's to come. We'd been chit-chatting most of the day, but it's like the incline was beginning and it was time to get down to business and there wasn't going to be much talking. And then when we got to Redwall Bridge, I don't think there was a single word spoken from Redwall Bridge to Supai Tunnel, which is just right at a mile. And that's probably I would consider maybe the hardest part of the hike. So much incline. And then there wasn't a lot of talking the rest of the way up to North Kaibab either. But we'll probably get a second wind here and then crash again and then get another third wind. And I don't know what's going to happen. But off we go for round 2.
Okay, we didn't stay too long on the North Rim because it was just so cold and windy up there. Really crazy seeing the parking lot empty, seeing the roads clear. You could have driven in from the North Rim or from Jacob Lake, easily if the gate was open. So it was interesting to see that. And I always wonder I guess we could have taken the 1.5 2-mile walk to the lodge to see what that looks like in the dead of winter, but we ultimately never talked about that. I just think it would be interesting. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But we didn't stay long up there. We decided to head back down to Coconino Overlook where the sun was out and you got a beautiful view and your phones usually pick up a signal. We made it down there and we rested a little bit. Then when we left Coconino Overlook for the trip down, I don't even know how I can say this. Arnie just took off. All right. He decided to he's like, I'm going to do my thing. And you guys were flying down the trail. And I'm sitting back there going, okay, remember what we talked about with going down South Kaibab? The same thing applies for me on the north side. I am not going to risk my entire hike by going too fast. And you guys were cruising. And let's just say that I wasn't overly pleased.
Oh, we're at Redwall Bridge already because Captain Chaos here decided to really step on the gas.
He's dancing. He says
He's dancing. That sounds exactly right. What the heck's gotten into you here?
I'm feeling it, man.
You are.
I'm feeling it.
So we have to feel it with you?
No. This is how it works. See, I'm feeling it, and then I just circle back.
Do you really think we're going to let that happen? Do you really think we're going to let that happen?
An Australian Shepherd?
Did you hear what he just said? He'll circle back.
Yeah, that's not happening.
All right. See, you've seen an Australian Shepherd, right?
Yeah.
They circle.
Yeah.
They circle.
Yeah.
And they're
That's not happening.
Did you just call us sheep?
You're
Are we the sheep in this scenario?
All right, that was one. That was one of those. No, he didn't just say that to us, did he, Buffy?
He did. He did. He was bouncing down the hill. He was literally bouncing down the hill. He calls it dancing.
Yeah, he was dancing with the canyon, and he was feeling himself. But when he starts talking about circling back, I mean, the ego is going to come out from us. It's like, no. There's going to be no circling back. We got this, Arnie. But oh man, that was fun. But you guys kept it up, and I made it a point. Like I said earlier, I made it a point to stay back. I was filming, I was recording stuff for the podcast and for the YouTube channel and all that. But I was letting you guys get ahead, and I was taking shots of you guys way down below me. That was a fun part of the trip, though. Even though you guys were way out ahead of me, hanging back was fun for me. And what were you guys doing up there?
I mean, we were really just hitting it. I mean, that was the point at which I really felt like I had that whole adrenaline rush of, that was when I felt like I did it. Like I knew I did it, because you make that turn and you're headed down. And at that point, I even think I said to somebody, I was like, dude, we did it. Like, I know we haven't finished this thing yet, but we did it. At this point, the only way we get out of here is by climbing ourselves out of here, and we're going to. And so, like, that's where I was on cloud 9 at that point, coming down the North Kaibab, just like, I really felt like I'd already done the R3.
We reconvened once again at Manzanita.
We are at Manzanita, which is quite literally fantastic. Hey, Brian, it's one of my favorite places in the canyon. I've said that no less than 10 times today. We are feeling as well as could be expected. I think we all have the expected aches and pains that we all knew we would have, but I think overall our spirits are good. I'm super jazzed because I know we're going to do it. I mean, at this point, we have no choice but to do it, so we're doing it, so that's cool. We're going to take off here. The next 7 miles should be 7 easy ones, nice and flat. We still got daylight for most of those, probably all of those. And then we're going to have 7 really fun miles that are not going to be as easy as the next 7. So we'll think about those ones later.
So we got the long, flat stretch from Manzanita to Phantom, essentially. I say flat. You're going to lose about 2,000 feet of elevation, but you're going to do it over what, almost 9 miles. So it feels relatively flat the whole way, except for Asinine Hill, which is right in the middle of everything. What are you doing for food on this trip? Because I noticed that you were snacking, fairly often when you had the opportunity. What kind of stuff did you pack?
I eat. I was, in fact, when we got to Coconino, that was when it really hit me. Like, I know that Coach had talked about like the ketones, and I know you guys were, timing those and this and that. It's not something that I'm at all familiar with. And I was just kind of surprised and not really sure. When I'm looking at my food intake, my size, and your guys' food intake, your size. But I wasn't questioning you. But let's see, by the time we got to Coconino, I was on my second slice of pizza, which was delicious. I'd already eaten 1 peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I had made some snickerdoodles for my son, and I'd had a couple of those. I'd had my apple already. I eat regular. I eat 100% regular food. There's nothing in my pack that's any kind of like a goo or a gel or anything like that, a caffeine shot or, it's all food. I love my gummy bears, banana chips, trail mix. I kind of.
It's like you have license to eat whatever you want.
It's exactly what it is. That's
part of the fun,
That's
right?
exactly what it is. Like anything and everything that I want to eat, I'll take it on a. I had a Snickers. I had a Reese's. I didn't eat those, but I had them. It's whatever you feel like. And I take all sorts of different stuff. I have a bag of random snacks that I'll throw in my car. And then I'm, as I'm packing my pack the night before, that's when I'm like, well, what I want this or I want this, what am I going to feel like? You don't know what you're going to feel like. So there's sweet stuff, there's salty stuff, there's, peanut butter and jelly is one of my favorite things.
And
And food's one of the easiest things to overthink, especially for someone who's never done rim to rim. And you're probably going to pack too much because we all do that at some point. I still do that, honestly. But to your point, would your advice be to someone who's never been in the canyon before to not? I think it's not try to be perfect, right?
I don't, I mean, first of all, you want to eat whatever. I mean, clearly you've been hiking before, so you just want to stick with what you've been doing. Like, you don't need to turn it into something that it's not. It's still just a long hike. So you've done some long hikes, I hope, to prepare yourself. So whatever you ate on those is what you're going to eat for this. If you train with goos and gels, which I've hiked with people that do that, as long as that's what you always do that. But I'm always going to be big on just real food. I think it tastes better. I think it digests better. I don't know. Um, it works for me. And I
But more than anything, take what you feel that you think you're going to want to eat because you don't feel like eating necessarily.
mm-mm.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to force myself to eat something because, the macros are perfect, or I'm not even, going to force myself to set a clock and say that eat, every 15 minutes or every 30 minutes or how many calories or whatever. I mean, I definitely know that at some point I will get to a point where I'm not going to eat anymore. And I'm also, it's based on like the time of day. Like I don't eat at midnight normally, so I'm probably not eating at midnight on a hike either. But
Are you the same with hydration?
yeah, I don't force hydration. I'm a chugger. I don't really like to. I hate drinking out of the straw, the camel pack. Um, So this was actually the first trip I think in over a year that I've even put water in my bladder, and then I'd hated myself for it because I didn't need it. But I use my soft flasks, and I would rather just drink it, chug it down when I'm at the water station. So I'm not carrying as much, and I'm not forcing myself to drink. Other than I stay hydrated, and a couple days before the hike, I probably overhydrate myself.
Yeah, and you can drink too much. It's possible to drink too much water if you're forcing yourself to stay on a schedule. Dr. Tom Myers, the physician at Grand Canyon Clinic, who we have on the show fairly often, always says, drink when you're thirsty. You don't have to be forcing yourself to drink. Drink when you're thirsty. Your body will let you know. So it's another one of those things, just like food, that you don't necessarily have to overthink. And electrolytes, you know what? I didn't take a single electrolyte supplement on this entire hike, and that is I just relied on the salt and the foods that I was eating, and I was totally fine. So that was another lesson because you need the electrolyte supplements probably in the summertime, but in the wintertime, I found that it wasn't necessary because you're just not sweating as much and losing all those electrolytes in the first place. So now we cruise our way through the frying pan. We get past Cottonwood through the frying pan. And as we get closer to the box, it's starting to get dark again, but we are still, I think, feeling pretty good.
I'm always straight up and transparent with you guys. When I do these hikes and I throw up and I don't, I bail out. I've done that once, bailing out halfway through a rim to rim to rim because I wasn't feeling it. I'm straight up and transparent with you guys. This one has gone way better than I thought it would. So far. I know there is still a lot of work left to do. I am sore, my knees hurt, my legs hurt, my feet hurt. Tired. But I know it could have been worse because I don't think I'm peak physically prepared for this. But I do expect problems going up South Kaibab tonight. Just because of the nature of, mile 37 through 43 of a very strenuous hike, and it's straight uphill for 4,800 vertical feet. I think I'd be naive if I thought I was just going to skip up it. So I do expect some trouble on the ascent of South Kaibab. But I'll let you guys know because I'm always going to be straight up, good or bad.
Okay, at this point, I mean, we're doing the fastest miles that we did in the entire hike as we go through the box. Buffy is in the lead. She is setting just a fantastic pace. I mean, we're not wasting any time. It's dark. We're cruising through there. It's you, then it's Arnie, then it's me, Then Arnie stops to grab something out of his pack. He tells us to keep going, so we do, and we're going at a really good clip. And he was probably only, man, I would guess just a couple of minutes behind us at that point. But catching up at that point was gonna take a lot. I think a lot out of him, and I was hoping almost that he wasn't going to try to catch up. But I would look over my shoulder every now and then and see that light back there, and I could tell he was running. And I don't know if that would affect him later in the hike, but that was a fast pace you were setting through the box, Buff.
Well, it wasn't intentional. I think for me, again, when I talk about like the beauty of when I talk about the beauty of the canyon, like that's what I'm looking around and stuff and I'm enjoying it. Well, now it's dark and we're in this endless, you don't have any markers, you can't see where you are in the canyon. And if you've hiked it a few times and you have a general idea, but it's dark, so you really have no idea short of the bridges that I'm sort of counting. I remember the last one. I know which one that is. But yeah, it's just a matter of like, let's get through this because now it's dark and it's not that I'm not enjoying the hike, but now it's all physical because there's no more great beauty of the hike. You don't have a lot going on. And I guess I didn't realize I was going that fast because you were on me. And at one point we like stopped and you're like, oh, now coach said he'd catch up. And I was like, all right, well, let's just keep going then. And we just kept going.
And eventually he did catch up. And I know that had to take a lot out of him because we were moving, and to make up that kind of ground was, and it took him a while. I'd say it took him an hour to catch us would be my guess. And then, it was a great pace. And I felt good that we were feeling that good at that point, that we were able to move that fast. I mean, that felt good. And then finally, eventually after, oh my gosh, trudging your way through that box and not being able to see anything. And you've got the constant sound of Bright Angel Creek running right next to you, which is great. But man, the box sometimes seems like it never ends, but eventually it did. And we found ourselves once again in the darkness at Phantom Ranch.
We are at Phantom Ranch.
Woohoo!
That was Buffy. We just busted it from Manzanita to here. It feels like a very fast pace. Buffy was leading. And there's a reason for that, right, Buff?
There's a reason. I'm done. I'm ready to be done. I'm all done.
Even the best of us, I'm telling you, always reach the point where it's time to get the heck out of this canyon. Unfortunately, we're reaching that point at Phantom Ranch, and we still have 7.5 miles to go, including 6.5 miles of intense climbing. But we all know South Kaibab very well, so we'll always know exactly where we are on the trail. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. I am not looking forward to the red and white switchbacks above all else. That's that long, steep stretch between Tip-Off and Skeleton Point, leading into Skeleton Point, and it is brutal. And then you finish that, and you got the staircase from hell from Skeleton Point all the way to Cedar Ridge, which seems like it takes forever. And then you got steepness from Cedar Ridge to Ooh-Ah. And then Ooh-Ah is not too bad until you get to the chimney, the final push. And at that point, I think adrenaline can carry you no matter what, even though that's a steep little finish there. So we're ready to rock it. The rim to rim to rim is almost complete. Arn, how many miles are we in? Did you say?
36.87.
36.87 miles completed. We've got 7.5 to go, including 6.5 of intense climbing. Buffy's going to lead the way. That is a scary prospect, considering how badly she wants to get out of here. Her mood has changed completely in the last hour or so. The box seemed like it was never going to end tonight. It just went on and on and on. When it's dark and you just hear the water, you don't have a visual reference. It just never seemed like it ended. Phantom is closed. The whole area down here is closed for the Waterline project, so it's a little eerie. It's a little different. But now it's time to go to work, get the heck out of here, and hopefully go get something to eat.
Buffy, you're probably the strongest hiker that I've ever hiked with. But everyone should know, like I say all the time, that at some point on a rim to rim or a rim to rim to rim, you're gonna reach the point where you're ready to be done, and that was your point. Wasn't it?
No, I was done, and I don't mean like done like I'm done and I don't want to hike anymore. I was just like, I'm ready to be done. So let's get out of this great beautiful ditch. Like let's be done. Let's get out of here. Let's be done. I also think that by the time we got to Phantom, like for me, that's such a known. Like the hike up South Kaibab is such a known factor, and it's kind of like you're like, I've done this so much. Like I know I got this. Like now I know what I'm doing. Now I know where I'm at better. I mean, I know where I'm at on the north, but like certainly I've spent more time on the south. And and let's just get out of here. Let's get this done. We got like the last leg.
You remember when I said, because we had gone so fast through the box, and I was feeling really good, and I was starting to get excited because I was like, okay, we can get out of here in less than 3 hours, I think, from Phantom.
You look at me and you're like, you got a fast one in you? And I was like,
Yep.
I said no. I said I got a steady one. Like nobody's got to fast anything at this point. Like we didn't have a fast, but I was like, yeah, no, I felt good. I mean, like we all go through our stuff. And coming down North Kaibab, there was multiple miles that my knee every step was just excruciating. But then you get to a point where it either you get over it, you get past it, you get through it, you don't feel it, it freezes up. I don't know, but then you start to feel better, and you push past those things and you feel better, and yeah, I was ready to go. When we got to Phantom, I was ready to go. But then I had to sit there and listen to you record every awful thing we were about to go through. And it's funny too, because you guys both hit me when I said like we got 7 miles of this, 7 miles of that. And I've told you before, like I don't watch my watch. I don't watch the mileage, I don't watch the time. I just go. And you guys were all getting into my head because I kept getting these updates that I didn't really want, because it spells out for you what you have in front of you. It spells out for you how far you still have to go, or what you're really doing. And everything you said was absolutely true. And people need to understand what they're getting into. But it was like the last thing that I heard. And Brian, I'm telling you, that whole way out, it was still running through my head. Every time I hit one of the points that you were talking about, I was like, oh, here's the horrible red whites. Here's the like it definitely psyched me out a little bit. Like, oh yeah, okay, well, yeah, we got to do all
I
that.
apologize
No
for
worries.
that. But it was all true. It was
It's all
true.
true.
Wasn't it?
It's all true. You just don't usually tell yourself how. I don't usually tell myself how hard something's going to be right before I do it.
See, I need to learn. I need to learn from that. I need to be more positive, and that way we would have just gone ahead and skipped on up. Okay, so this is where, man. So this is where things go a bit wonky, a bit sideways. I don't record anymore the rest of the trip up because, well, first of all, it got so cold that my camera doesn't apparently operate in anything under 32 degrees. So I tried to turn it on a few times and it wouldn't turn on. That was very, very frustrating. But we had plenty of other things to worry about on the way up. When we crossed Black Bridge, I was stoked because you were in the lead, Arnie was behind you, and I was bringing up the rear. And I knew that you were going to set a great pace. And I was excited about that because I felt good and I knew we could get out of there in less than 3 hours. And yeah, I was just excited, man, feeling good at the end of a long hike like this, which I didn't the first time that I did the R3. I had so many down times. It helps hiking with people. It helped hiking with you guys and having people to help pace you and to talk to. That was very helpful. I really enjoyed that. But when we started up, again, you're in the lead and Arnie's right behind you, and I'm right behind Arnie. And when you come out of the tunnel after Black Bridge, that's the thing about South Kaibab. There's no like easing your way into the climb up South Kaibab. It is immediate when you get out that it's essentially straight up and it's not going to let up basically the whole way up. And I could tell as you went out ahead in the lead and Arnie was falling behind, I could tell because I was behind him. I could tell that something just wasn't right with him because I've hiked with him enough to kind of know what his pace is. And I could tell he was already starting to struggle. And in my mind, I was like, because I had planned on, busting on up. Man, I was like, uh-oh. What were you seeing when you were out in front? Did you know something was up, or did you just figure that it was a slower pace behind you?
So I had no idea that anything was like up. And like I talked about, like, we've never hiked together. I don't, I don't have any idea. So I knew I was pacing fast, and so I kept stopping, and that was, so then I started slowing. I come from like a track background where, in my head, I keep thinking, you want somebody to pace you, but when somebody gets too far ahead of you or when somebody blows past you, like it's defeating. So I didn't want to get too far ahead, so it felt like you guys couldn't keep up with me, but I wanted to keep going. I guess that was the biggest thing, is that I wanted to keep going. And I didn't have any idea that anything was wrong, other than, we're doing an R3 and we're on our last leg, and we've all hiked 38 miles. So I knew
Yeah,
our
maybe we're
pace was
just slowing
slowing, but
down a
no,
little
I
bit.
didn't have any idea that there was anything like, I wouldn't have looked at either of you guys and been like, oh, like he's bonking or he's having trouble, or, we need to adjust something.
Well, in the week or so after this adventure, Coach Arnie did post in our Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show Facebook group his video recap, and I want to play some of that so he can kind of explain in his words what was going on with him. And this is what he said about the slog up from the Black Bridge to tip off.
When we got to Phantom Ranch, I was feeling good physically. Had to do a little catch up to catch up to everybody, but I was feeling pretty good physically. But I knew that my brain wasn't all there. I needed a little bit of a spark. The problem was I took another piece of gum. It's caffeine gum, and that got me. It got me, and I didn't really feel it until we were headed up. We started out at Phantom about 8 o'clock at night. And our goal, I thought getting out of there by midnight was very doable, even though I knew I didn't have it. So heading up out of Phantom, which is pretty steep. It's a steep climb for the next couple miles. Each step, my gut kind of tightened up a little more and a little more. And my brain was trying to figure out what was I going to do. So I said, just get to tip off and let's see if we can figure this thing out. So we get up to tip off, and I had to change my shirt because it started to sweat, and I didn't want to. It was getting cold, but I knew that my gut was just a knot, but at that point, it didn't matter. I had to keep going. I mean, when you're in hell, and I've been in hell before, in the canyon, you just keep moving. That's it. You just keep moving. I didn't have any options. I already knew I didn't have any options.
Okay, when we were making our way to tip off, and it was slow going again, and you went out ahead of us a bit, and Buffy, I knew at that point that this was going to be a slog to get out of there, and it was getting cold. Again, we were not dressed for winter; we were dressed to keep moving. We all had shorts on. And I was thinking, as we were making our way to tip off at the last stretch there, when you get to the kind of the cobblestone and it kind of feels good under your feet, I was thinking to myself, we got to cut Buffy loose, because I'll stay back with Coach Arnie, but two of us do not need to do that. And it just kept ringing to what you had said earlier about you're fine as long as you keep moving, right? And I think that's how I feel too. As long as we keep moving, it doesn't matter if we have shorts on. It doesn't matter how we're going to be fine. But it was getting so cold, and the pace was so slow, and I could tell there was something wrong with Coach.
Canyon hiking can be hot and deadly, and shade can save your life. Be sure to plan your hike with our Grand Canyon Shade Tracker, a completely free tool that lets you see exactly where you'll have shade on your route every minute of every day of the year. Find the Grand Canyon Shade Tracker exclusively at brightangeloutfitters.com and hike your best hike.
And so when we got into the shelter there at tip-off, and Coach took off his pack, and nobody was really saying anything, and I want to be very clear about this. When you hike in a group, you have got to have a plan. Is everybody going to hike together no matter what? Are you going to split into pairs? In this situation, this was premeditated. I had to basically tell Buffy, you have got to go. You've got to go. And you, Buffy, were reluctant to do so because you didn't want to leave the group. But I thought it was going to be more dangerous if we ran into trouble for the three of us to be there was no reason for the three of us to be together and struggling and suffering through the cold. You had to get out of there. One of us had to get out of there. So Buffy was extremely reluctant to go, but I will stand by it. It was the right call. It was the right call. Let me stay back with Coach. We're going to get out of here. I didn't feel like we were in any imminent danger of dying or anything like that. We were going to eventually get our way out of there. It was just going to suck. the entire way. And there was no reason for you to stay behind. But I know, to your credit, you were still very reluctant to go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think that I had any real awareness of what all was going on, and that's, you know, again, not being familiar with you guys or personalities or whatever. Because even when we got to tip off, I remember I turned around and I was like, "Are we stopping?" Like I didn't really want to stop at tip off, but I was like, "Are we stopping?" And coach was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "All right," so we stopped. Um, and that was the first, where you were like, just go on ahead, and I'm like, well, I get we're going slow or whatever, but I really never, until the next day even, knew
Yeah.
how bad, or that coach was really struggling. Like, I didn't know anything about like the gut issues. And I do know, and I even said this to you, and you said that what didn't come into play, but and maybe it's my background, but I come from an awareness of, often being the only, I used to be a firefighter. I used to be in the military, and I come from a background of sometimes intimidating people, where my presence isn't always a helpful thing. Like, get the girl out of here so we can like grind it out kind of thing. Not in a bad way at
No,
all, but like,
no, it wasn't like that at
you
all.
know what I mean? So I think I got in my own head about that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'm making this worse. Like, I just want us to keep moving. Like, I just wanted us to keep moving. It wasn't even about like, let's go fast. It was just about like, let's keep moving. And I had no real idea, that anything was going on other than, we got to all grind this out. I knew that we'd all done it before. I knew, coach just did an R5. So I wasn't at all worried about someone's fitness or ability to get out. It was just like, we're going to grind this thing out. And you were very adamant about, get out of here, because it seemed like you guys, or the coach was going to take a break, like an extended break. And yeah, no, I was gonna freeze. I mean, I still had like an extra pair of gloves and an emergency blanket, but yeah, no, I wasn't prepared to hunker down.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely the right thing to do, and I just want everyone to understand that there was no abandonment or anything like that. You did what we basically insisted that you do. There was no sense in the three of us being out there freezing when it just wasn't necessary. We have experience. Coach and I have experience doing R3s. You have experience doing R3s. We always knew where we were and what we had still ahead of us. I just knew it was going to be slow, and there was no reason for you to stay back and suffer with us. But Coach and I finally did get going again. Man, when that stretch to Skeleton Point, before even the red and whites, he was wobbling off to the left, and I was right behind him, and it was making me so nervous because I didn't know how unsteady he was. I didn't know if he was going to tumble over the edge. You don't want that to happen in the Grand Canyon. He would step up on those endless, incessant steps. He would step up on one of them sometimes and lose his balance a little bit and start to fall backwards a little bit. And so I would just kind of steady him with my hand on his pack. So things were crazy, as Coach calls that last mile up to Skeleton Point.
The mile and a half to Skeleton Point was that was something you could put in the movies. It was a little crazy, because my brain was like a little sideways, and I was seeing shadows, and I could tell I was drifting from side to side, because Brian would go, "Do you know you're leaning left?" I go, "I do." And I would just try to bounce back, and I knew I was driving him crazy, but it was what I had to do to just go, to keep moving. Like I said, there were no options here. And the fact that Brian stayed there was amazing.
And I will say, Coach gives me far too much credit for staying with him, or what. Look, one of us was going to stay with Coach no matter what. We were never going to split up. The three of us were never going to completely split up and just be one. That was not going to happen. It was never an option. So, crediting one of us with staying behind with him was not necessary. That's something that he would have done for either one of us. And that's something that we, of course, were going to do for each other no matter what. Okay, at this point, we get to the Skeleton Point to Cedar Ridge slog with the endless staircase, and Coach was looking up ahead, and he's like, is that Buffy still up there? So how are you doing up ahead of us?
So I saw you guys right before I got to Skeleton. I saw your lights, and so that gave me, that gave me like a boost. I was like, okay, cool, they're good. They're not even that far behind me. It was just a matter of like however long you took the break at tip off. So again, I'm climbing out. So the night before, I had put my phone on a charger, a hotel charger, right? And how many times have we ever done that and the USB doesn't work? But of course, this time I didn't notice it until we were on Coconino Outlook is when my phone died. So I did that. So I didn't have my book. I didn't have a time. I didn't know squat from anything. So that was a very, very long climb out for me. At least it felt very long. It was very cold and I was in my own head. And I don't know, but I got this horrible, the Every Rose Has a Thorn song. Is that Guns N' Roses? It
Yeah.
got in my head. And I'm telling you, the entire climb out, I was trying to work like every single word through my head. I just kept working the song because I don't really know the words, but you just sing it enough and you get them. Yeah, that was. And then I was even trying to tell myself to stop singing the song because it was annoying me. Um, but I just kept moving. You know what I mean? It was a matter of I just kept moving. Just like every other time I've ever climbed out, I don't feel like I was going fast. I was going steady. I never stopped, and I just kept moving. And I kept looking back, and I could see your guys' lights every once in a while. So I was like, "All right, we're good. Get out of here."
Well, if you would have listened real hard, speaking of music, you might have heard something echoing from way back behind you. If you would have just listen to what Coach Arnie had to say about that stretch from Skeleton to Cedar.
We got going out of Skeleton Point on the way to Cedar, mile and a half to Cedar Ridge, and I yelled up to Brian, I go, Brian, do you know any show tunes? He goes, what do you, songs? I go, yeah. So I started singing, and he jumped in there, and we sang. And I'll be honest with you, because I checked my watch, that mile, the first mile to Cedar Ridge was my fastest mile going up South Kaibab. And I don't remember pain. I really don't. I just wish we knew more songs, Brian. And so, but then I kind of ran out of gas, and that last half mile to Cedar Ridge is always a pain in the rear end, and it just never seems to end.
Okay, we finally make our way to Cedar. I should say we finally sing our way to Cedar Ridge, and we finally get there. And man, at the end of a hike, that slog up from Cedar to the top, it's a mile and a half, just over 1,000 feet of elevation. But it's still pretty steep. It can be rough. If you do this in the daylight and you're struggling, you've got the most iconic, beautiful views in the entire canyon to distract you. But when it's the middle of the night, and we're getting close to midnight now, and it's pitch black, and I'm going out a little bit ahead of Coach Arnie now, and I'm telling you, one thing I will never forget from this hike is my light as I would come around a corner and just shining, and all you see, since it's just blackness all around, is your light just shining on the steps. The infamous South Kaibab steps. And I would come around another corner, and I was really struggling at this point because we had been moving so slow, and I was freezing by the time we got to Cedar Ridge, and I was starting to struggle. And I was just ahead of Coach, and I was waiting for him in my favorite spot, I think, in the entire canyon, and it's this little ledge right above Windy Ridge, just above Cedar Ridge, but above Windy Ridge, that iconic, spine ridge that the canyon is just all around you. And I was waiting for Coach. And do you remember earlier in the hike, Buffy, that we had run across those kids from the University of Utah? Yeah. There were like 3 of them. And we were shocked that they were doing a rim to rim to rim because it did not seem like they were prepared. They tried to pass off some of their food to us at Manzanita.
Well, and we couldn't even figure out, like, based on, like, you could sometimes based on somebody's gear, figure out what they're doing or how long it's going to take them. And they had, I mean, hats off to them because they were killing it. They were absolutely killing it. But man, to be young and not know what you don't know.
No, I mean, just doing a rim to rim to rim like it's nothing. It was very impressive. But I knew they were behind us somewhere. And I swear, as I stood there looking down on Windy Ridge, as Coach slowly came around the corner and started to, ascend up Windy Ridge, and all I saw was his light. And I swear to you that those kids were all right there with him. That's what I was seeing. I was like, those kids are right there. They're helping him up. Oh my gosh. So maybe I was hallucinating a little bit at that point. I don't know, because as he got closer, I'm like, wait, no, he's by himself. Come on, Coach, let's go. We got to get out of here. But man, your mind will start playing tricks on you, and it doesn't let up at some point. And Coach talked about that.
as we were going up, I kept looking up and I kept seeing Brian's light, and I go, man, I am so thankful that he was there, because although I knew I was pulling him into my hell. I knew that. And he hung in there. Again, not knowing what was in my head, because when you're in hell, you just keep moving. That's all I know. I just tried to stay focused. And at this point, especially when from UHA, I was just numb. It didn't matter at that point. I just, it was cold. My body, it was a matter of just finish.
Okay, so as we're at coming up from Cedar Ridge, Buffy, at this point, you're probably about finished. And I imagine maybe you're going up the chimney at that point and you are just frozen, and then you got the long walk to your car.
That long walk to the car was just miserable. I mean, I promised myself I'd never do this again. And then, I mean, like the next
time.
morning, I was like, let's go. Let's do this again. Yeah. But yeah, because again, it's that whole moving thing. So even up the chimney and again, Brian, you were in my head. Every section that we got to, I was like, oh, and then here Brian tells me about how awful this section's going to be, and how and then you get to the chimney, and well, at least you can get up there because your adrenaline. But it's like, I'm like, I don't think it's more than 9. So I told myself it's 9. And so I walked him up, and like the first 3 are kind of actual switchbacks, and then the last few, they're not that bad. But then as soon as you get up on, and then it was windy and it was freezing cold. That was the longest walk, because there's no way to get warm that way. By the time I got to my car, I was shivering so hard it took me a couple of tries to get in the car, right? To even get the handle. And then once I got in it to start it, it's like a push button. Like I physically was shaking so hard that it took a lot just to even get the car started.
I think it was 23 degrees when we finished. I think you finished about an hour and 15 minutes, something like that, ahead of us. Knowing the trail as well as we do, when you get past Cedar Ridge and then you're looking for UA, and you get to the UA point sign, and it's like, okay, 9/10 of a mile. We're inside a mile. We were going so slow at that point, and I just was turning around. Coach, come on. We got to get out of here, man. We got to get out of here. And the next thing that I was looking for was the Victor vomit sign.
I was too.
At the base of the chimney. And I'm telling you, Buffy, when I saw that sign, I stopped and I waited for Coach, and I was like, Coach, it's Vic. It's Vic. Here he is. We are almost done. And you know how it is. When you get to the chimney, it's a steep little section there at the end. But when you know you're almost done, your adrenaline kicks in, and it just pushes you up that final push. And I know you thought that we were kidding. Coach had told me an hour or so before, in the middle of this struggle, that he wanted to surprise us, you and me, with a couple of friends who are also in our Facebook group. JD and Angie came up from Cave Creek, and they were going to cook us steaks when we were done, whenever we finished, and they were going to meet us at the end. And you told me that I was making that up afterwards, but that actually really happened. So we get up there and we finally finish. We get to the top of the chimney, and I had never met Angie or JD before, and they were up there to meet us, and I will never not feel horrible about this, because it was one of the kindest gestures I had ever experienced. Awesome. That someone would come up and meet us, and it was going to be a surprise that Coach had put out for us. Well, the way things had unfurled over the last 3 or 4 hours, the misery that I was in, as cold as I was, JD and Angie definitely did not get the best side of me at that point, because you don't really want to talk to anybody. You definitely don't want to eat anything. You just want to get in your car and go get in a hot shower somewhere. So it was so kind of them to be there, and we got in their van, and it was nice and warm, and ate a couple of bites of steak, and they were so kind and chipper and fresh and happy. And it just sucks, man, when you got to be like, you feel just so miserable when you finish something like that, especially the way things had happened. So I felt bad about that. I remember, I think I called you or texted you and said, "Hey, come on back and have steaks. We're having steaks near the South Kaibab
Well, so you
Trailhead."
texted and you said, because I had texted and said, like, let me know as soon as you guys are out, because obviously I want to make sure, everything's okay. And then you texted me like, we're out, and then all you said was, we're having steaks in a van, and I'm like, okay, like, sure you are. Yeah, me too. Like,
Talk about hallucinating,
I
right?
just thought you were being ridiculous. Like, I just thought you were, because earlier Coach had talked. We had been talking food for a while. Like, what do you want to eat? Like, what do you, like, what are you looking forward to? Which is funny because, I mean, I had purposefully like bought extra pizza the night before, and I had that in my fridge in the hotel room, and I had some grapes and some other things, for whatever I felt like eating. Man, I didn't feel like eating anything. I just went.
No.
I needed a really really hot shower because I was froze to the core, and then I mean, I might have had a couple of grapes, and then I just, yeah, tried to go to bed.
Yeah, that's all it was. I mean, we finished, and this adventure eventually ended. Our goal was 20 hours. I think Arnie and I finished in like 21:04 or something like that. So we almost got in that 20. I know we can go a lot faster, but we never hiked with each other. So we set a conservative goal of 20 hours. And you hit it. We almost hit it still somehow. As miserable as we were when it was over, I swear to you, it was 3 days later, I think, that I texted you and said, "Are you ready to do this
I
again?"
was like, oh yeah, I was ready 2 days ago.
Exactly. Of course, that's what you said. You were already
Yeah,
thinking about it. So we got to do it again. For the final word here, let's let Coach Arnie talk about, in retrospect, why he had the experience that he did. We can have our own theories. I think we probably both do. But let's hear what Coach had to say when this was finally all said and done, and he had a chance to reflect on it.
I screwed up. I took the canyon for granted. I lost respect for just that small moment of time. And although I was never afraid, never. I've been afraid down there, believe me. It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. And putting your teammate through hell is really unforgivable in my book. And for that, I only hope that Brian can, and I know he has forgiven me, but it just makes me stay even more vigilant on what I coach and what I teach and what I do, because I don't want to be the person that's, says one thing and does another. And the canyon is a special place, but it's also a very dangerous place.
Man, I think that really sums it up, Buffy. The canyon's a special place, but it's also a dangerous place. You better know what you're doing. And there is this cachet about rim to rim to rim. It's kind of the ultimate hike on the corridor trails, right? It's the big one. It's the big kahuna.
Mm-hmm.
If you've accomplished rim to rim, maybe you want to try for the double crossing. But I hope this serves as a cautionary tale, because like you've said a couple of times, Coach had just done an R5. He had just done a quadruple crossing 2 months before. And this time, on his second crossing, just 2 months later, he runs into the trouble he runs into. And if it can happen to Coach, it can happen to you, it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone.
I don't understand the idea that I've done one, so now I'm going to go for two, because it's such a huge leap and it's such a huge difference. I know that before I did my first R3, I did a ribbon turnaround. I did a Wall Creek turnaround. I did a Manzanita turnaround. I mean, I built up to it. And I get that if you're coming from, I don't know, somewhere super far away, it's not as easy. It's 3.5 hours from us. But it's not something to say, oh, I'm just going to do double. Oh, I can bench press 100. So now tomorrow I'm going to bench press 200. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And then I sit there and I wonder, like, do I need to make this look a lot harder? But I don't think people get how I'm able to go do that. I mean, I rode 3,000 miles last year on my bike. I hiked the Grand Canyon like 18 times. I hiked over 600 miles. I walked over 400 miles. I mean, it's not like I just get off the couch and go do an R3. And I just think that people don't get, even the comparison of, climbing mountains or ultra running or trail running, it doesn't necessarily compare. I've heard people be like, well, I can do a 4-hour marathon. So, won't the canyon be easy? No, like I can't do a marathon, but it's not, they don't equate. They're not comparable. It's not comparable. You're going down first, you're beating the snot out of your legs. It's something that if somebody says like, what's the most important thing I need to know before, I do a rim to rim or, an R3, you need to have some canyon experience. Honestly, take something smaller, bite something smaller off. Go down to Havasu Gardens and back up. Go across Tonto. It doesn't need to be all at the same. It doesn't sound enjoyable
No.
if it's going to be an absolute, you know, life or death scenario. And sometimes it is if you don't really know what you're getting into.
And what if you're doing it by yourself? And what if you're doing it in the
Right.
summertime when there's no hiding from the heat if you're going to do this in the summertime or in any of the warmer months, because it takes so long. Unless you're a runner, that's a different story. But we're talking about for hikers, you're going to be out there for 18, 19, 24 hours, 30 hours. I heard one guy who mentioned it took him 34 hours to do it. There is nowhere to hide from the heat, right? We picked about the most opportune time that you really can, where you don't have to worry about the sun exposure and the heat. But you're out there for so long that you're going to have to hike in the daylight hours at some point. And it just can be so dangerous. And what you said about the progressions is exactly right. You have to progress to something like this. Do a rim to rim. See how you do when you finish a rim to rim, and ask yourself if you could turn around right now and go all the way back to the other side, because that's what a rim to rim to rim is, right? Do rim to rim. Then maybe do a rim to rim and then do an overnight on the north or south rim, and then go back the next day. So make it a rim to rim with a night in between. See how you handle that one. Then if you feel good, maybe you can step it up to try the 1 day rim to rim. But it's for someone who's never been to the canyon before or has never hiked the canyon before, to think that you're going to come out here and do a rim to rim in your first go, it's, maybe you'll be okay. Who are we to say? But our experience tells us that your chances of not having success are much, much greater, and it's just not worth the chance, because at the minimum, it's not going to be fun. I don't think that the rim to rim that we just did was necessarily fun. I always like to say that on rim to rim, the fun is when it's done. And then you can feel good about yourself and you accomplish something.
And not even not the night it's done. Like I wasn't even enjoyable, because then I checked in with somebody and they were like, oh, well, was it like way harder than you thought it was going to be? Like, it sounds like it was way harder than you. I'm like, no, it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. This is exactly how I thought it would feel. It was exactly what I knew it would be, and it sucked. But the next morning, that's when you hit your high and you're like, yeah, that's a thing I did.
The fun.
That's when you get your enjoyment.
The fun is when it's done. That's exactly right. So, I don't want to discourage someone from, having a dream to do rim to rim and discourage them from doing it, but just do it right. Just do it right. Just progress to it and be smart about it, because like Coach Arnie just said, the canyon is a special place, but the canyon can be a dangerous place. And we don't want to see anyone become one of the bad statistics that, happen every single year. Buffy, I hope we do it again. It was amazing hiking with you. You are an absolutely incredible hiker. I seriously think the strongest hiker that I've ever hiked with. You're a machine, and it was fun hanging out with you. And I'm sure that we will do this again at some point, and maybe get Coach Arnie back out there and let him have a little redemption as well.
Yeah, let's go.
Man, what an experience it was. I think it is incredibly admirable the way Coach Arnie has handled this whole thing. I know he is a man of immense pride and has a stellar reputation in the Grand Canyon hiking community. So looking at himself in the mirror and recognizing the mistakes he might have made and acknowledging them publicly, that is high character stuff. And really, what would we have all learned from a hike like this had everything gone perfectly? Coach Arnie's experience showed us that even Superman can get a tear in his cape sometimes. and that if he's not bulletproof and immune from nightmare scenarios in the canyon, none of us are. And that is the true gift of this one-day R3, and why if you're considering one for yourself, you'd better take it seriously and put yourself in the best possible position for success. Single-day rim-to-rim to rims are serious business that really should be built up to, at the very least, by experiencing the unique nature of Grand Canyon hiking at some level before considering taking on the double crossing. My thanks to Coach Arnie and Buffy Park for this unforgettable day. You can find all three of us just about every day in our Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show Facebook group, so please go join that today and be part of the conversation. I got to tell you, our community really is the best place for you to learn and prepare for your Grand Canyon adventure. No matter what that adventure is, we are all there to help. It's a great community, great place to be. All right, that's it for now. My name is Brian Special, encouraging you, as always, to go hike the canyon. Take that first step. Embrace the journey. And when you get there, whether it's for time goals or taking your time, just hike your own hike and enjoy every step in the magnificent Grand Canyon. We'll see you next time on the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show, presented by Bright Angel Outfitters.